Hello, and welcome to Griffin Baptist Church's Bible Study. I'm Gary Wools. I will be the teacher. Today we're going to be looking at Daniel, the book of Daniel, chapter 11. This is the third session of this Bible study on chapter 11. We'll be starting with verse 28. Daniel 11:28. Then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant, and he shall do exploits and return to his own land. On two occasions between 170 and 168 BC, Antiochus IV Epiphanes attacked Egypt and on the verge of complete success, but he was intercepted by Rome and ordered to return to Palestine. This is detailed in verses 29 and 30. At the time appointed he shall return and come toward the south, but it shall not be as the former, or as the latter. For the ships of Siddim shall come against him, therefore he shall be grieved and return, and have indignation against the holy covenant. So shall he do. He shall return and have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. Once again, Antiochus IV Epiphanes attacks Egypt, only to encounter the Roman fleet under the command of Publius Linus, who stopped him and ordered him to return to Palestine. After being humiliated by the Romans, he returned to Palestine and took it out on the Jews. However, some of the Jews turned on their own people and their own religion. Verse 31. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that makes desolation. When Antiochus IV Epiphanes returned to Jerusalem, over 100,000 Jews were killed. He stopped the daily sacrifice, forbid all Jews' customs, including circumcision, and the observance of the Sabbath. He also sacrificed swine on the altar and poured swine broth on the holy vessels of the temple. He also set up an image of Jupiter in the temple to be worshipped. Thus the abomination that makes desolate, but not the one Jesus speaks about that will take place during the tribulation. Remember, Antiochus IV Epiphanes is a type or picture of the real Antichrist and is a foretelling of things to come during the Great Tribulation. Verse 32, And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall be corrupt by flatteries, but the people that do their God shall be strong, and that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, and by spoil many days. It is believed these verses refers to the family known as the Maccabees, which led a successful rebellion against Antiochus IV Epiphanes. They did this through using guerrilla-type battles. These battles took place during the silent period of the Bible. This section or series of books is known as histories, are not canonized, and are not part of our Bible. The Catholic Bible includes these as part of their Bible. There are some 14 or 15 books total in this group, and if one is interested in this period, you would need to first find them and then study them as history. Verse 34, Now when they shall fall, they shall be holpen with a little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries. These that have fallen will help in the rebellion in some way and are given credit for what they do. Verse 35, And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. The only thing I understand about this verse is that we now move from the time of Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes to the time of the Antichrist. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. From that is determined shall be done. With verse 35, history ends because all that was prophesied has come to pass. With verse 36, we start prophecy that is yet to come. We now move over an unknown length of time. Only God knows the length of time that is between the events of verse 2 through 35 and the events that start with verse 36. It is obvious to us that the church age is part of this time period, but Daniel was not shown the church age. We also know that it has been about 2,500 years since Daniel wrote this prophecy, and we still do not know how much longer before Christ will return for his church. And the king shall do according to his will. The Antichrist will be self-willed, unlike Christ, who came to do the Father's will. And he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god. Christ never exalted himself, he always lifted up the Father. And shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. The Antichrist will speak blasphemies against God and all of his host. The people that did not want to have anything to do with church will fall right in line and agree with everything he says. They did not want to be held accountable for their actions, and the Antichrist gives them the excuse they are seeking. The Antichrist will stand tall for a short period of time, but God will put an end to him in a short period of time. 7 years to be exact. Verse 37. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. At first glance you would say the Antichrist would have to be a Jew. This is not so. It simply says he will not regard the God of his fathers. If you were a Baptist, it would be the God of heaven. But if it was a Catholic, who be his God then? If you look at the book of Revelation 13, you would learn it will take 2 men to fill this office, the Antichrist and the false prophet. I believe the Antichrist will be a political leader from the Roman Empire, and the false prophet will be an Israelite from the tribe of Dan. He is not going to have anything to do with women and exalt himself above the God of heaven. This may be saying he is a homosexual or gay. Verse 38, But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Some of the Bible commentators say that the word forces should have been translated fortresses. If fortresses means kingdoms or the world, this might be a better translation. Remember, when Satan tempted Jesus, he offered Jesus all the kingdoms of this world. This verse goes on to say he will honor, meaning worship, a God his fathers did not know. I believe this is Satan worship. Listen to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4. Who opposeth and exalted himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Now listen to Revelation chapter 13, verse 4. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? The God of the fathers the fathers did not know was Satan, and these verses makes it clear he is the one being worshipped. Verse 39, thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, who he shall acknowledge in the increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. Satan will have his way in the synagogues and in the temple. This is his hour. The Antichrist will lift himself up in the power of Satan and will, for a short time, bring glory to himself. Anyone that opposes him or does not take the mark of the beast will be killed. Also, he will take their land and use it for his gain. The Antichrist will be the first true world dictator. All the other kings we have talked about rule the then known world. Antichrist will rule the entire world. Verse 40, and at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots, and with horsemen, and with many ships, and he shall overflow and pass over. And at the time of the end is not the end of temporal earth, but the great tribulation. The king from the south would be a ruler of Egypt, but Scripture does not identify this king, and Egypt is not that strong at this time. The king might be able to unite all of Africa and bring that army against Israel. The king of the north has been, in the past, identified as Russia. It may be Russia. Russia is certainly stirring up trouble at this time. However, given the information in the next verse, the king of the north may be someone from another country like the nation of Georgia, which has a large population of Arabs. The reason the king is most likely from Russia stems from two facts. Russia has a large navy, and they also have a large horse-mounted cavalry. Shall come against him like a whirlwind. It indicates that the king from the north comes quickly against Israel. I believe that this is the king from the north mentioned in Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39. The Antichrist sets up his capital in Babylon. Whether this is Babylon rebuilt or Rome, I'm not sure. In the end, Antichrist will prevail against this group. Even though these kings shall try to take Israel, it is also a rebellion against the Antichrist. If indeed this king of the north is the king spoken of in Ezekiel, the Lord is the one that protects Israel. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But there shall escape out of his hand from Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. The Antichrist will now enter into Palestine, in particular Jerusalem. He also moves his capital to Jerusalem. At this time, the Antichrist will put down the resistance that rises against him, but some escape out of his hand. Those people that escape are the descendants of Ishmael, the Arabs. Apparently, they are going to give the Antichrist trouble also. Listen to what the Lord says about Ishmael and his descendants in Genesis chapter 16, verse 12. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of his brethren. This says to me the problem we are having with the Arabs will not end until Christ comes back. If I understand Daniel 11:41 correctly, they'll be causing trouble right up to the end. Daniel 11:42, he shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. In due time the Antichrist will overcome even Egypt. Verse 43, but he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. Before all is said and done, the Antichrist will control the wealth of the world. Libya and Ethiopia represent Africa. Therefore, the Antichrist will control all of Africa. Verse 44. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly to make away many. The Antichrist gets some bad news about something going on in the east. This would be the Orient with its millions and millions of people. Also, the king of the north starts to raise up his head again. This upsets the Antichrist, and he sets out in great anger to put this rebellion down. Verse 45. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the sea and the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. At this time the Antichrist will establish his headquarters between the Mediterranean Sea and the Sea of Galilee. The glorious mountain is referring to Jerusalem, also known as Mount Zion. Yet he shall come to his end. He will come to his end when the Lord returns and sets up his millennial kingdom. At the time of the tribulation, when Christ comes back, he will throw the Antichrist and the false prophet into the lake of fire alive. No one will help him. Even Satan will be powerless to save him. This brings us to the end of Daniel chapter 11 and these prophecies. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Have a blessed day.